They say money talks, but in New York City, wealth screams. Amelia was just invisible, a girl with a thick accent, wiping tables at the city's most pretentious restaurant. To Tiffany St. James, the socialite dating tech billionaire Carter Winslow, Amelia was nothing more than a peasant to be mocked for entertainment. But Tiffany made a fatal calculation. She didn't know that the waitress she humiliated over a glass of wine held the keys to Carter's entire empire. When the boardroom doors opened the next morning, the accent was the same, but the power dynamic had completely shifted. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a signature on a contract. The air inside l'Orangerie always smelled of truffle oil, old money, and desperation. It was the kind of establishment on Manhattan's Upper East Side where the menu didn't list prices, and the staff were trained to disappear into the beige wallpaper unless summoned. Amelia adjusted her apron, smoothing the stark white fabric over her waist. She was exhausted. Her shift had started at 4 p.m., and it was now pushing 9:30. Her feet throbbed in the mandatory black flats, but her face remained a mask of polite indifference. She needed this job, or rather, she needed the anonymity this job provided. At table 4, the prime booth overlooking the skyline, sat Carter Winslow. At 32, Carter was the golden boy of the tech world, the CEO of Winslow Dynamics. He was handsome in a way that felt manufactured, perfect teeth, perfect hair, and a suit that cost more than Amelia's rent for a year. But tonight, all eyes were on his date, Tiffany St. James. Tiffany was an influencer, turned model, turned socialite. She wore a dress that shimmered like liquid silver, and her laugh was loud, piercing the hushed atmosphere of the dining room. She had sent back her appetizer twice. She had complained that the water was too room temperature. Amelia approached the table with a bottle of Chateau Margaux, 2015. It was a $3,000 bottle of red wine. "Good evening," Amelia said softly, presenting the label to Carter. "Your selection, sir." Tiffany looked up from her phone, her eyes narrowing as she scanned Amelia. She didn't look at the wine. She looked at Amelia's shoes, then her hands, then her face. "Wait," Tiffany said, holding up a manicured hand. "Say that again." Amelia paused, her grip on the bottle tightening slightly. "The wine, miss. It is the Chateau Margaux." Amelia's accent was distinct. It was Eastern European, thick and rolling, carrying the weight of the Balkans. It was the accent of her grandmother, the accent of her childhood, in a country most people in this room couldn't find on a map. Tiffany giggled, covering her mouth in a mock attempt at politeness. "Oh my God, Carter. Listen to her. It's like hearing a villain from a Bond movie try to speak English." Carter Winslow didn't correct her. He didn't look embarrassed. He simply swirled his empty glass and gave a tight, dismissive smile. "Tiffany, behave. We're celebrating." "I am behaving," Tiffany protested, leaning over the table, her voice carrying to the nearby patrons. "I just think it's cute. Hey, can you say moose and squirrel? Go on. Say it." Amelia felt the heat rise up her neck. She had 2 PhDs. She spoke 4 languages fluently. She understood the intricacies of global economics better than the man sitting at this table. But here, in this uniform, she was just the help. "I'm here to serve the wine, miss," Amelia said, her voice steady, though her accent remained undeniable. "Shall I pour?" "Ugh, she's so serious," Tiffany sighed, rolling her eyes. "Fine, pour it. But don't touch the glass. I don't know where those hands have been." Amelia took a breath. Professionalism. "You are invisible." She stepped forward, executing the pour with practiced grace. The dark red liquid flowed smoothly into the crystal glass. Just as Amelia began to twist the bottle to catch the final drop, Tiffany moved. It was subtle, a quick jerk of her elbow as if she were adjusting her hair. But it was enough. Her arm collided with Amelia's wrist. The bottle slipped. Red wine splashed across the pristine white tablecloth. A few droplets landed on the silver fabric of Tiffany's dress. The silence that followed was deafening. "You idiot!" Tiffany shrieked, jumping up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Look what you did! This is custom! Do you have any idea how much this costs?" I am so sorry," Amelia stammered, grabbing a linen napkin. "You bumped my arm, I bumped you." Tiffany gasped, turning to Carter with wide, innocent eyes. "Carter, did you hear that? She's lying. She's clumsy and stupid, and now she's lying to my face." Carter looked at the stain on the tablecloth, then at Amelia. His expression was cold. He didn't care about the truth. He cared about the scene. "Get the manager," Carter said. His voice was low, dangerous. "Sir, please, it was an accident," Amelia tried to explain, looking him in the eye. "If you check the cameras—" "I don't speak peasant," Tiffany sneered, grabbing her purse. "Go get someone who speaks English and can actually do their job. God, why do they hire these people? It ruins the whole aesthetic." Amelia froze. The insult cut deeper than the accusation of clumsiness. She looked at Tiffany, really looked at her, memorizing the cruelty in her eyes. Then she looked at Carter. He was checking his watch, completely unbothered by the degradation of another human being. "I will fetch the manager," Amelia said, her voice dropping an octave, losing the polite service lilt. It was the voice she used in boardrooms, not dining rooms. But they didn't notice. They were too busy wiping a microscopic drop of wine off a silver dress. The manager, Mr. Galloway, was a man who sweated profusely when wealthy people were unhappy. He was waiting by the kitchen doors when Amelia walked up, his face pale. He had already heard the commotion. "Amelia, what happened?" Galloway hissed, pulling her into the service corridor. "That is Carter Winslow. Do you know who he is? He's about to close the biggest funding round in New York history. We cannot have him upset." "She hit my arm, Mr. Galloway," Amelia said calmly. "She did it on purpose." "It doesn't matter," Galloway snapped, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief. "The truth doesn't matter. The check average matters. The reputation matters." He looked at her, avoiding her eyes. "I'm sorry, Amelia. You know the policy regarding VIPs. If they are unhappy with the server goes. Tonight." "You are firing me?" Amelia asked. She wasn't surprised. She felt a strange sense of relief. "I have to. Tiffany St. James is tweeting about it right now. She has 3 million followers. I can't have this blowback." He sighed, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a wad of cash, her shift pay, plus a little extra. "Just go out the back. Don't go back into the dining room." Amelia took the cash. She didn't count it. She slowly untied her apron, folding it neatly into a square. She placed it on the stainless steel counter. "You are making a mistake, Mr. Galloway," Amelia said. "Not by firing me, but by thinking Carter Winslow is the most powerful person in that room." "What are you talking about? Just go, Amelia." Amelia walked out the back door of l'Orangerie. The alleyway was cold, smelling of garbage and city exhaust. The contrast between the golden light of the restaurant and the gritty reality of the street was sharp. She walked half a block down to a secluded corner and pulled a sleek, encrypted smartphone from her pocket. Not the cracked Android she used in front of the staff. She dialed a number. "Status?" A deep voice answered instantly. "The reconnaissance is finished," Amelia said. Her accent was still there, but the hesitation was gone. It was commanding, sharp. "Carter Winslow is exactly as the dossier suggested. Arrogant, dismissive, easily manipulated by those close to him. Does he suspect? He suspects nothing. He thinks I am a clumsy waitress who cannot speak English properly. Excellent. The meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow at Winslow Dynamics HQ. The board is nervous. They need this capital injection, or the stock plummets. Amelia smiled, watching a black Escalade pull up to the curb. The driver, a man named Victor, stepped out and opened the door. "Prepare the papers, Stefan," Amelia said into the phone, "and bring my blue suit, the one I wore to the G20 summit. I want to make an impression." "Understood, Miss Kovac. And the name on the visitor badge?" "Use the holding company," Amelia said, sliding into the leather seat of the SUV. "Let's keep it a surprise until I walk through the door." As the car pulled away, Amelia looked out the window at the restaurant one last time. Tiffany St. James was probably laughing right now, drinking another glass of wine, thinking she had won. She had crushed a bug. She had no idea she had just stepped on a landmine. The headquarters of Winslow Dynamics was a fortress of glass and steel in the financial district. The 40th floor was buzzing with nervous energy. Analysts were running back and forth with tablets, and junior executives were sweating through their shirts. Carter Winslow sat at the head of the massive mahogany conference table. He looked tired. He hadn't slept well. Despite his bravado at dinner, the company was in trouble. They had burned through their cash reserves, developing a new AI interface that wasn't working yet. They needed $200 million to stay afloat for the next fiscal year. If they didn't get it today, the creditors would come knocking by Monday. "Who exactly are we meeting?" Carter asked, snapping at his CFO, a nervous man named Arthur. "The Kovac Consortium," Arthur said, adjusting his glasses. "They're a private equity group based out of Zurich, but with roots in Eastern Europe. Very old money, very private. They've been buying up tech infrastructure all over the continent. If they back us, we're golden. If they walk, we're done." "I've never heard of them," Carter muttered. "That's because they don't want to be heard of," Arthur replied. "Their representative is ruthless. They call her the Iron Lady of the Danube in the financial press, though no one has a clear photo of her." The door to the conference room opened, and Tiffany St. James walked in. She wasn't supposed to be there, but Tiffany went where she wanted. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying a tiny dog in a designer bag. "Carter, babe," she whined. "My card got declined at Sephora this morning. You need to fix it." Carter massaged his temples. "Tiffany, not now. I'm about to go into the most important meeting of my life." "So, it'll take 2 seconds. Just call the bank." She plopped down in one of the empty board chairs, putting her feet up on the table. "Tiffany, get your feet down," Arthur hissed. "The investors will be here any second." "Relax, Four Eyes," she scoffed. "They're just suits. Carter will charm them, they'll give us the money, and we can go to Saint-Tropez next week." Carter looked at her. For the first time, her lack of awareness wasn't charming. It was irritating. But he didn't have the energy to fight her. "Just stay quiet, Tiffany. Please." The intercom on the table buzzed. "Mr. Winslow?" The receptionist's voice trembled slightly. "The delegation from the Kovac Consortium is here." Carter straightened his tie. He stood up, putting on his best, visionary CEO smile. "Send them in." The double doors swung open. 2 large men in dark suits entered first. Security. They stood on either side of the door. Then came a man carrying a briefcase, Stefan, and finally, the representative. She walked in with a stride that commanded the room. She was wearing a tailored navy blue power suit that fit perfectly. Her hair, which had been pulled back in a messy bun the night before, was now sleek and straight, cascading down her back. She wore glasses with thin gold frames. She didn't look at anyone. She walked straight to the other end of the table, opposite Carter, and placed a thin leather folder on the mahogany surface. Carter blinked. She looked familiar. There was something about the eyes. Tiffany lowered her sunglasses, squinting. "Good morning, gentlemen," the woman said. The voice. It was the same voice, the same heavy, rolling Eastern European accent. But there was no hesitation, no subservience. It was cold, hard, and terrifyingly confident. "I am Amelia Kovacs," she continued, her gaze sweeping the room before locking onto Carter's stunned face. "Chairwoman of the Kovacs Consortium. I believe you are looking for $200 million. Carter's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tiffany dropped her sunglasses. They clattered loudly on the floor. "Wait, no way. That's the waitress. That's the clumsy idiot from last night." Amelia slowly turned her head toward Tiffany. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. "And you," Amelia said, her voice dropping to that dangerous low register she had used in the alleyway. "You are the woman who believes the Chateau Margaux pairs well with a temper tantrum." The room went dead silent. The CFO, Arthur, looked back and forth between them, his face draining of color. "This is a joke, right?" Carter finally managed to say, a nervous laugh bubbling up. "Is this a prank? Did you hire her, Tiffany?" "Mr. Winslow," Amelia said, opening her folder, "I assure you, my bank accounts are very real, unlike your projected revenue for Q3. She pulled out a document. "I have spent the last 6 weeks analyzing your company. I worked undercover in the city to observe the character of the people I intend to do business with. I wanted to see how the great Carter Winslow treats those he believes are beneath him." Carter swallowed hard. He remembered the spilled wine. He remembered looking away. He remembered the manager firing her while he checked his watch. Carter stammered. "Ms. Kovacs, last night. That was a misunderstanding. I didn't know." "You didn't know I was rich," Amelia interrupted, cutting him off like a knife. "If you knew I had billions, you would have treated me with respect. But because you thought I was a waitress trying to earn a living, you treated me like garbage. That tells me everything I need to know about your leadership." "She's lying," Tiffany yelled, standing up. "She spilled the wine on me. She ruined my dress." Amelia snapped her fingers. Stefan, her assistant, stepped forward and placed a tablet on the table. He pressed play. It was security footage from the restaurant. Amelia had bought it from the owner that morning for a very generous price. The video showed the table clearly. It showed Amelia pouring perfectly. It showed Tiffany looking at Carter, smiling maliciously, and then jerking her elbow back hard, knocking the bottle from Amelia's hand. On the massive screen in the boardroom, Tiffany's cruelty was high definition. "Fraud," Amelia said, looking at Tiffany. "Attempted destruction of property. Slander." She turned back to Carter. "And you. You watched it happen. You saw her arm move. But you let me take the fall because it was easier than disciplining your girlfriend." Amelia closed the folder. "The Kovacs Consortium does not invest in cowards," she declared. "We are pulling our offer." "No!" Carter shouted, panic finally setting in. "Ms. Kovacs, please. If you walk out, the stock tanks. I'll lose everything. The company will go bankrupt." "I know," Amelia said simply. "That is why I have already purchased your debt from your creditors." Carter froze. "What?" "As of 8 a.m. this morning, I own your loans, Mr. Winslow, which means I don't need to invest in your company." She leaned forward, placing her hands on the table. "I own it." The silence in the boardroom was absolute. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning and the rapid, panicked breathing of Carter Winslow. You can't do that," Carter whispered, his legs giving out as he sank back into his chair. "That's hostile." It is business, Amelia corrected, her voice devoid of emotion. You were over-leveraged. You were reckless. You spent capital on personal luxuries, like that bracelet on Ms. St. James's wrist, which was charged to the corporate account last month, while your R&D department was begging for resources. Arthur, the CFO, looked down at his shoes. He knew. He had signed the checks. Amelia walked around the table, her heels clicking rhythmically on the hardwood floor. She stopped behind Carter's chair. I am appointing a new board of directors effective immediately, Amelia announced. Stefan has the list. Arthur, you will keep your job as CFO, provided you report directly to my team. Arthur nodded vigorously. Yes, Miss Kovac, absolutely. And you, Mr. Winslow. Amelia looked down at the top of his head. You are removed as CEO. You will retain your shares, but you will have no voting power and no operational control. You are a figurehead. You can cut ribbons, but you will never make a decision for this company again. You can't do this to me, Carter yelled, finding a spark of anger. I built this. This is my name on the building. And now it is my money keeping the lights on, Amelia shot back. Then she turned to Tiffany. Tiffany was trembling. She had realized finally that the peasant she mocked could buy and sell her entire existence 10 times over. And regarding the Waitress incident, Amelia said, her eyes cold, I have spoken to the owner of l'Orangerie. Mr. Galloway, the manager who fired me, has been let go for unfair termination practices. The restaurant is now under new management. Amelia leaned in close to Tiffany. I also know about your modeling contract with the agency that Winslow Dynamics sponsors. That sponsorship is cancelled. Today. Tiffany's mouth fell open. You witch! You're ruining my life over a spilled glass of wine. No, Amelia said softly. I am holding you accountable for your character. You thought you could step on people because you were above them. I am simply showing you that there is always someone higher up the food chain. Amelia turned to the security guards, Winslow's own security. Escort Ms. St. James out of the building. She does not have security clearance. The guards hesitated for a fraction of a second, looking at Carter. Carter looked at the floor, defeated. He said nothing. Gentlemen, Amelia prompted. The guard stepped forward. Ms. St. James, please come with us. Carter, do something! Tiffany screamed as the guards took her arms. She's crazy! Carter! But Carter Winslow didn't move. He sat in the ruins of his empire, realizing that the most expensive thing he had ever paid for was his girlfriend's ego. As the doors closed on Tiffany's screams, Amelia sat down at the head of the table, Carter's chair. Now, she said, opening her folder again and looking at the terrified executives. Let's look at the engineering schematics. I found 3 errors in your code just by reading the public abstract. The transition of power at Winslow Dynamics was not a gentle wave. It was a tsunami that reshaped the coastline of the entire company. By 11:00 a.m., 3 hours after Amelia had revealed her identity, the physical landscape of the executive floor had changed. Carter Winslow stood in the hallway, holding a cardboard box containing a framed photo of himself on a yacht, a stress ball, and a set of expensive fountain pens. He stared at the door to the CEO's office, his office. Stefan, Amelia's imposing assistant, stood by the door. He didn't speak. He simply gestured down the hall toward the annex. The annex was where the junior project manager sat. It was a glass-walled room, affectionately known by the staff as the fishbowl, because there was no privacy. Everyone could see you working, sweating, and panicking. This is temporary, right? Carter asked, his voice cracking slightly. Just until the restructuring is done? Stefan didn't answer. He just stared. Carter walked the walk of shame down the long corridor. The open plan office, usually buzzing with chatter, fell silent as he passed. The engineers, the coders, the marketing assistants, people Carter had barely acknowledged for 3 years, watched him. He could feel their eyes. He could feel the mixture of shock and schadenfreude. They knew. The email had already gone out. Subject: Leadership Restructuring and Strategic Partnership with Kovac Consortium. Carter reached the fishbowl and set his box down on a small, generic desk. There was no view of the Manhattan skyline here. There was only a view of the break room and the vending machine. Inside the main boardroom, the atmosphere was electric. Amelia had removed her suit jacket, rolling up the sleeves of her silk blouse. She stood in front of a massive whiteboard, a marker in hand, dismantling Winslow Dynamics' entire business model. "The burn rate is unsustainable," Amelia said, circling a figure in red. "You are spending $40,000 a month on client retention dinners, while your server architecture is 3 years out of date. This ends now." Arthur, the CFO, was sweating, typing furiously on his laptop. "We can cut the marketing budget by 15%, Miss Kovac." "Make it 40, Amelia countered, without turning around. "The product should speak for itself. If we need to buy people dinner to get them to buy our software, the software is garbage." "Is the software garbage, Arthur?" No, absolutely not. It's just buggy." Amelia capped the marker and turned to face the room of terrified executives. "Then we fix the bugs. We don't buy steaks. Effective immediately, all executive expense accounts are frozen. If you want a coffee, you pay for it. If you want a flight, you fly economy." A ripple of unease went through the room. These were men and women, used to first-class lifestyles on the company dime. "I see some unhappy faces," Amelia noted, her voice dangerously calm. "Let me be clear. I didn't buy this debt to make friends. I bought it to make money and to prove a point. If you do not like the new culture, the door is open. But know this, if you leave without your stock options." No one moved. "Good. Now bring me the files on the Titan project. I want to know why it is 6 months behind schedule." As the team scrambled to pull up the files, Amelia's phone buzzed. It was a private message from her security team. Subject: T. St. James update. Message: Subject removed from premises, making threats in the lobby, claiming she will burn this place to the ground. We have notified legal. Amelia glanced at the phone and permitted herself a small, cold smile. She looked through the glass walls of the conference room, down the hall to the fishbowl. She saw Carter sitting there, staring blankly at his computer screen. He looked small, stripped of his title, his corner office, and his arrogance. He was just a man in a suit that was suddenly too expensive for his station. Amelia walked to the door of the conference room. "Arthur, take over. I have a meeting with our director of vision." She walked down the hall, the sound of her heels echoing. When she entered the fishbowl, Carter jumped. Ms. Kovac," he stammered, standing up. "Sit," she commanded. He sat. "I am looking at the personnel files," Amelia said, leaning against the doorframe. "It says here you have a degree in computer science from Stanford. Is that true, or did your father buy that for you too?" Carter flushed red. "I earned it. I graduated cum laude." "Good, then you can code." I haven't coded in years. I'm a big picture guy. I handle strategy." "Your strategy bankrupted the company," Amelia said bluntly. "We don't need big pictures right now, Carter. We need code. The Titan interface has a latency issue. The engineering team is overworked because you fired 3 developers last month to pay for the office remodel." She dropped a thick stack of technical documentation on his desk. "You built this mess. Now you are going to help clean it up. I want a patch for the latency issue on my desk by Monday morning." "Monday? That's impossible. It's Friday afternoon." "Then I suggest you don't make plans for the weekend," Amelia said. "Welcome to the working class, Carter. We work until the job is done." She turned to leave, but stopped. "Oh, and Carter, the coffee machine in the break room takes quarters. I suggest you get change." Saturday morning broke with a grey, drizzling sky over New York City, matching the mood inside Tiffany St. James's penthouse. Or rather, the penthouse she was currently being evicted from. The apartment was technically leased by Winslow Dynamics as a corporate hospitality suite, a loophole Carter had exploited to give Tiffany a free place to live. But at 8:00 a.m., a courier had arrived with a legal notice from the Kovac Consortium. Notice to vacate, 24 hours. Tiffany screamed. She threw a vase against the wall. Then she called her agent, a frantic man named Lenny. "Lenny, you have to fix this. She's kicking me out. She's taking everything." "Tiffany, honey, I'm trying." Lenny's voice was thin and stressed. But the contract was clear. It was a corporate perk. Carter isn't the CEO anymore. He can't protect you. "I don't need protection," Tiffany shrieked. "I need revenge. Lenny, get me an interview. The morning show. Daily Post. I don't care. I want to tell my side of the story." "Tiffany, are you sure? These people have lawyers who eat nails for breakfast." "I have 3 million followers, Lenny. I am the brand. She's just some immigrant waitress who got lucky with a rich daddy. I'm going to destroy her reputation. I'm going to paint her as a jealous, psychotic stalker who wanted my boyfriend and is now punishing me because she couldn't have him." Lenny hesitated. It was a dangerous game, but controversy sold. "Okay, I can get you a spot on Talk of the Town tomorrow night. Prime time. But you need to cry. Can you cry?" Tiffany looked at herself in the mirror. Her mascara was running, her face blotchy with rage. She practiced a tremble in her lower lip. "Just watch me." By Monday morning, the storm had made landfall. Amelia sat in her new office, formerly Carter's, watching the clip on her tablet. Tiffany St. James sat on a velvet couch on national television, wiping away a tear with a tissue. "It was terrifying, honestly," Tiffany was saying to the host. She was our waitress, and she was obsessed with Carter. She kept staring at him. When I asked her politely to give us space, she spilled wine on me intentionally. And then, the next day, she shows up claiming to own the company. It's a vendetta. She's abusing her power to harass a woman just because she's insecure. The host nodded sympathetically. "So you're saying this hostile takeover was personal?" 100%, Tiffany sniffed. "She's targeting me. She kicked me out of my home. She's trying to ruin my career. It's bullying. It's harassment by the 1% against a self-made content creator." Amelia paused the video. Stefan stood by her desk, his face grim. "The stock is down 4% this morning. The hashtag boycott Winslow is trending. People don't like bullies, Miss Kovac, and she plays the victim very well." Amelia set the tablet down. She wasn't angry, she was calculating. "She is fighting an air war," Amelia said thoughtfully. "She is using emotion, rumors, and noise. She thinks if she screams loud enough, the truth will disappear." "We should release a statement," Stefan suggested. "Deny the allegations." "No," Amelia said. "If we argue, we look defensive. If we look defensive, we look guilty. We need to fight a ground war. We need facts." She turned her laptop toward Stefan. "I spent the weekend doing a deep dive into the corporate hospitality expenses associated with this penthouse. Carter was sloppy, but Tiffany was greedy." Amelia pulled up a spreadsheet. "Look at this. Carter authorized the lease, yes. But look at the furnishings. a $60,000 sofa, $20,000 for imported curtains, all charged to Winslow Dynamics as office supplies. That is embezzlement. Stefan nodded. It is. But it gets better, Amelia continued, her eyes narrowing. I cross-referenced the vendors. The company that sold the furniture? St. James Interiors. It's a shell company registered to Tiffany's mother in Florida. Stefan's eyebrows shot up. She was buying furniture from herself? Using company money? She was invoicing the company for luxury goods, keeping the goods and keeping the money, Amelia said. That isn't just a fireable offense, Stefan. That is grand larceny. That is prison. Amelia stood up and walked to the window. Let her have her interview. Let her cry on TV. Let her build her tower of lies as high as she wants. And then? Stefan asked. And then, Amelia said, we pull the foundation out. Down in the fishbowl, Carter was staring at the same news clip. His co-workers were whispering around him. Did you really date her? A junior developer asked, leaning over the partition. She sounds crazy. Carter looked at the screen. He saw Tiffany playing the victim, twisting reality, using his name to garner sympathy while dragging the company he built through the mud. For the first time in years, the fog in Carter's brain cleared. He remembered the dinner. He remembered Tiffany's cruelty to the waitress, to Amelia. He remembered how Tiffany had laughed when she kicked the dog in the lobby last week. She's lying, Carter whispered. What? The developer asked. She's lying, Carter said, louder this time. He stood up. He looked at the code on his screen, the code he had spent the last 48 hours fixing. He was exhausted. He smelled like stale coffee, and he had slept on his brother's couch because he couldn't afford a hotel. But he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. He grabbed his phone. He had texts from Tiffany. Tiffany. Baby, did you see the interview? I'm winning. We can get the company back. Just back me up. Tell them she stalked you. Carter stared at the message. Then he typed a reply. Carter. Don't contact me again. He walked out of the fishbowl and headed for the elevator. He wasn't going to the lobby. He was going to the top floor. He had information Amelia needed. Carter knocked on the heavy oak door of the CEO's office. Enter, Amelia's voice came through. Carter walked in. Amelia didn't look up from her documents. The latency patch is due in 2 hours, Carter. Why are you here? It's done, Carter said. I submitted it to the repository 30 minutes ago. It compiles. The lag is down to 4 milliseconds. Amelia finally looked up. She studied his face. He looked ragged. He hadn't shaved, but his eyes were steady. Impressive, she admitted. Maybe there is an engineer in there after all. I didn't come here for praise, Carter said. He closed the door behind him. I saw Tiffany's interview. Everyone did. She's going to escalate, Carter warned. You don't know her like I do. When she feels cornered, she doesn't just lash out. She sells out. Amelia leaned back in her chair. Explain. Tiffany has a friendship with Donovan Price, Carter said. Amelia stiffened. Donovan Price was the CEO of Omnicorp, their biggest competitor. He was a shark who had been trying to acquire Winslow Dynamics' proprietary AI technology for years. Define friendship, Amelia said. They party together. But it's more than that. About 6 months ago, I found Tiffany taking photos of my notes on the Titan project. She said she just thought the diagrams looked artsy for her Instagram story. I believed her because I was an idiot. Carter took a step forward. But looking back, the next week, Omnicorp announced a feature that was suspiciously similar to ours. I think she's been feeding him info. Amelia tapped her pen on the desk. This was the missing piece. The embezzlement was bad, but industrial espionage was catastrophic. "If she is working with Price," Amelia said, "and she knows we are vulnerable right now, she will try to give him the final piece of the puzzle, the source code." "She doesn't have access," Carter said. "I changed her passwords yesterday." "Does she have your personal laptop?" Amelia asked sharply. "The one you used at home?" Carter's face went pale. It's at the penthouse. I left it there when you evicted me. I was in a rush." Amelia hit the intercom button. "Stefan, get the car, now." She stood up, grabbing her coat. "If that laptop is still in the penthouse, and she has access to it, she has the keys to the kingdom. She can download the entire Titan codebase and hand it to Price before we can stop her." "I'm coming with you," Carter said. "No," Amelia said. "You are an employee. Go back to work." "It's my laptop," Carter argued, showing a flash of his old authority. "And I know the passcode. If she's locked it out, you'll need me to bypass the biometric encryption. You need me, Amelia." Amelia looked at him. She saw the desperation, but also the genuine desire to fix his mistake. "Fine," she said. "But you ride in the front." The drive to the penthouse was a blur of siren-dodging and aggressive driving by Victor, Amelia's driver. When they arrived at the luxury building, the doorman tried to stop them. Ms. St. James gave strict orders. "I own the lease on this unit," Amelia said, shoving the legal paperwork into the doorman's chest. "If you stop me, you will be explaining it to a judge." They stormed the elevator, as the numbers ticked up, 20, 30, 40. The tension in the small metal box was suffocating. "Why?" Amelia asked, not looking at Carter. "Why did you let her run your life?" Carter stared at the floor. "Because it was easier. Being the genius billionaire is hard. Being Tiffany's boyfriend was easy. She liked the lifestyle, and I liked that she made me feel important. I didn't realize she was hollow until you showed up." The elevator dinged at the penthouse floor. The door slid open. The apartment was in chaos. Clothes were thrown everywhere. Suitcases were open on the floor. And there, in the living room, stood Tiffany St. James. She was holding a silver laptop, Carter's laptop. Standing next to her was a man in a sharp grey suit, Donovan Price. "Well, well," Donovan grinned, his teeth bleached white. "The cavalry arrives. A bit late, though." Tiffany looked up, her eyes wide. She clutched the laptop to her chest. "Carter, you brought her here." "Put it down, Tiffany," Carter said, stepping out of the elevator. "That's company property." "It's my severance package," Tiffany spat. "You left me with nothing. No money, no apartment, no reputation. Donovan here appreciates my value. He's going to pay me $5 million for what's on this drive." "That is theft," Amelia said, her voice calm but icy. She stepped into the room, flanked by Stefan and Victor. "Mr. Price, if you accept that laptop, you are committing a felony. Receipt of stolen intellectual property." Donovan Price chuckled. He was a man used to getting his way. "Allegedly stolen. Tiffany tells me this laptop was a gift, and possession is 9/10 of the law, Miss Kovac. Once I leave here, good luck proving where the code came from. I'll rewrite enough of it to dodge the patent, and Winslow Dynamics will be obsolete by Christmas." He reached out a hand to Tiffany. "Give it to me, Tiff. The wire transfer is ready." Tiffany hesitated. She looked at Carter. She looked at the laptop. "Don't do it, Tiffany," Carter said softly. "Please. Once you do this, there's no going back. You're not just an influencer anymore. You're a criminal." "I'm a survivor," Tiffany yelled. "You threw me away. You let this maid humiliate me." She shoved the laptop into Donovan's hands. "Take it," she said. "Where's my money?" Donovan smirked, clutching the device. Pleasure doing business. He turned to leave, heading for the service elevator. Victor, Amelia said quietly. Victor moved. He didn't run. He simply occupied space. He blocked the path to the door, a wall of muscle. Get out of my way, Donovan snapped. This is unlawful imprisonment. Actually, Amelia said, pulling out her phone, it's a citizen's arrest. I've been recording this entire interaction since the elevator doors opened. Donovan froze. You have the laptop, Amelia continued, walking closer. You just admitted on tape that you intend to rewrite the code to bypass patents. And Tiffany just admitted she's selling it for $5 million. Amelia held up her phone, the screen showing the active recording. The police are 3 minutes away. I called them from the car. So, Mr. Price, you have a choice. You can hand over the laptop and walk out of here, claiming you were investigating a security breach as a good corporate citizen, or you can leave in handcuffs with your new business partner. Donovan Price looked at the phone. He looked at Victor. He looked at the frantic, sweating Tiffany. He was a shark, but sharks don't attack when they are outgunned. He knew when to cut losses. Donovan laughed, a dry, humorless sound. He shoved the laptop back into Tiffany's arms. I have no idea what you're talking about, Donovan said, smoothing his suit jacket. I was just here to view the apartment for a potential rental. This woman seems unstable. Donovan! Tiffany screamed. You promised. I promised nothing. I don't do business with thieves. Donovan walked past Victor, who stepped aside to let him pass. The rival CEO disappeared into the elevator. Tiffany stood alone in the center of the room, holding the laptop. The silence was heavy. She looked at Carter, her eyes filling with tears, real tears this time. Panic tears. Carter, baby, she whimpered. I was just scared. I didn't mean it. Tell her I'm just dramatic. I wouldn't have really sold it. Carter looked at her. He looked at the woman he had spent 2 years trying to impress. He saw the greed, the shallowness, and the total lack of loyalty. He walked over to her. She smiled hopefully. He reached out and gently took the laptop from her hands. It's over, Tiffany, Carter said. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was just tired. The police really are coming. I suggest you call a lawyer. He turned his back on her and walked to Amelia, handing her the computer. Here, Carter said. The keys to the kingdom. Amelia took the laptop. She looked at Carter, and for the first time, her expression softened. There was respect there. Good work, Carter, she said. Sirens began to wail in the distance, getting louder. The arrest of Tiffany St. James was not the cinematic spectacle she might have hoped for in her days as an influencer. There were no paparazzi, no flashing lights, and no red carpet. It was clinical, cold, and humiliatingly quiet. 2 officers from the NYPD's Financial Crimes Division entered the penthouse. They read her rights in a monotone voice while she sat on the edge of the sofa, weeping into a designer throw pillow. You can't do this, she sobbed as they pulled her hands behind her back. I'm famous. Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am, one officer said, snapping the handcuffs shut. You're the suspect in a grand larceny and industrial espionage investigation. Watch your head. Carter stood by the window, watching the scene unfold. He felt a strange hollowness in his chest. He wasn't sad for her. He realized now that he had never really known her, only the projection she created. But he was sad for the time he had wasted. He had let himself be dazzled by a shiny surface, ignoring the rot underneath. As they led her out, Tiffany stopped and looked at Carter. Her mascara was smeared, her face a mask of desperation. Carter, call Lenny, she begged. Call my dad, fix this. I'll forgive you if you fix this." Carter looked at her, his expression weary. "There's nothing to forgive, Tiffany, and I can't fix this. You broke the law." "I hate you," she screamed as the officers guided her into the elevator. "I hate both of you. You deserve each other." The doors closed, cutting off her voice. The silence that rushed back into the penthouse was heavy. Amelia stood by the kitchen island, checking her emails on her phone. She looked completely unfazed, as if she had just finished a routine business transaction, rather than dismantling a human life. "Are you okay?" Amelia asked, not looking up. Carter let out a long breath. "I don't know. I feel stupid. I let her manipulate me for 2 years. I let her treat people like garbage. I let her treat you like garbage." Amelia finally looked up. She walked over to the counter, where a bottle of expensive champagne sat, one of the many luxuries Tiffany had billed to the company. "Arrogance is a powerful drug, Carter," Amelia said. "It makes you blind. You thought you were the king of the world because you wrote some good code 5 years ago. You stopped looking at people. You only looked at their utility." She picked up the bottle, examining the label. "But people are not code. You cannot just delete them when they are inconvenient." "I know that now," Carter said quietly. "So, what happens to me? You have the laptop. You have the code. Do I get fired now?" Amelia considered him for a moment. She saw a man who had been stripped of his ego, his fortune, and his false love. But in the wreckage, he had found his competence again. He had fixed the latency issue. He had tried to protect the company. "No," Amelia said. "You don't get fired, but you don't get your office back, either." "I don't want it," Carter said quickly. "I just want to work. I want to build things again." "Good," Amelia nodded. "Because Monday morning, we start the integration with the Kovac Consortium's European servers. You're going to lead the engineering team, not as a CEO, but as a lead architect. You report to the CTO. You earn a salary, not dividends, and you clock in at 8 a.m. like everyone else." Carter smiled, a genuine, tired smile. "Deal." 6 months later, Winslow Dynamics, now rebranded as Kovac Winslow Technologies, was a different world. The atmosphere in the office had shifted from panic and posturing to quiet, intense productivity. The free gourmet lunches were gone, replaced by a subsidized cafeteria that served hearty, simple food. The massive marketing budget for parties had been slashed, redirected into R&D and employee bonuses. Carter Winslow sat in the fish bowl, though it wasn't called that anymore. It was just the engineering hub. He wore a hoodie and jeans, headphones around his neck, typing furiously on a dual-monitor setup. "Hey Carter," a junior developer named Sarah called out. "I'm stuck on this API call. Can you take a look?" "Sure," Carter said, sliding his chair over. "Let's see. You missed a bracket on line 45. And optimize this query. It's going to slow down the load time." "You're a lifesaver," Sarah grinned. "Thanks, boss." "Not boss," Carter corrected her automatically. "Just Carter." He looked at the clock. It was 6 p.m. Most people were packing up. The elevator doors at the end of the hall opened, and Amelia walked out. She was wearing a sharp grey suit, carrying a tablet. She commanded attention wherever she went, not by shouting, but by the sheer force of her competence. She walked straight to Carter's desk. The room went quiet, but not out of fear anymore, out of respect. "Mr. Winslow," Amelia said. "Ms. Kovac," Carter replied, standing up. "If this is about the Q3 report, I sent it an hour ago." "I saw," Amelia said. "The numbers are good. We are profitable for the first time in 4 years. The Titan system is stable." "It was a team effort," Carter said, gesturing to the other developers. Agreed, Amelia said. She looked around the office, nodding at the staff. Then she turned back to Carter. However, there is an unresolved issue regarding your performance review. Carter's stomach tightened. Oh? Did I miss a deadline? No, Amelia said, her face unreadable. But I have a policy. When a project is successfully completed, the lead architect is required to attend a debriefing dinner. Carter blinked. A dinner? Yes, Amelia said. Business strategy, future planning. Okay, Carter said, confused. Shall I book the conference room and order takeout? No, Amelia said. I have made a reservation, 7:30 p.m. Where? Amelia allowed a tiny, mischievous smile to touch her lips. L'Orangerie. The restaurant was exactly as it had been 6 months ago. The same truffle smell, the same beige wallpaper, the same hushed atmosphere of extreme wealth. But when Carter and Amelia walked in, the vibe was different. Mr. Galloway was gone. The new manager, a woman named Beatrice who had started as a hostess, greeted them warmly. Miss Kovacs, Mr. Winslow. So good to see you again. Your table is ready. They were led to table 4, the same table where the wine had been spilled, the same table where Tiffany had ended Amelia's career as a waitress and inadvertently started the chain of events that saved Carter's company. They sat down. Carter felt a wave of déjà vu, but he pushed it aside. He looked at Amelia. She looked stunning in the candlelight, the sharp lines of her business persona softening slightly. A young man in a white apron approached the table. He looked nervous. He was holding a bottle of wine. Good evening, the waiter stammered. I have the Chateau Margaux for you. His hands were shaking slightly. As he went to present the bottle, he fumbled. The bottle slipped a fraction of an inch, clinking against the glass. He caught it, but he went pale. I am so sorry, the waiter gasped, freezing. I am new. Please forgive me. Carter looked at the terrified young man. He saw the fear in his eyes, the fear of being fired, the fear of the power dynamic, the fear of being invisible. Carter remembered how he had looked away when Amelia was in that position. Carter smiled gently. It's okay, son. Take a breath. You caught it. No harm done. Are you sure, sir? I'm sure, Carter said. Actually, why don't you leave the bottle? We can pour it ourselves. It takes the pressure off. The waiter let out a sigh of relief that was audible across the table. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. He set the bottle down and retreated. Amelia watched the interaction, her eyes shining with quiet approval. You have changed, Carter, she said softly. I had a good teacher, Carter replied, pouring the wine into her glass. Carefully, perfectly. You know, I heard about Tiffany. Oh? She took a plea deal, Carter said. 2 years probation, community service, and a massive fine. She's working at a retail counter in New Jersey now. Her social media accounts were deactivated as part of the settlement. Justice is rarely poetic, Amelia said, taking a sip of the wine. But it is functional. She is learning the value of labor. It will be good for her. Carter raised his glass. To labor. To perspective, Amelia corrected him, clinking her glass against his. They drank in silence for a moment, the rich wine coating their tongues. So, Carter said, setting his glass down. What is this future planning you wanted to discuss? Amelia leaned forward, her elbows on the table. The Kovacs Consortium is looking to expand into Asian markets. We need a CTO who understands the code, but also understands how to treat the people who write the code. Carter froze. Are you offering me the position of Chief Technology Officer for the entire consortium? Amelia said. It means travel. It means long hours. It means dealing with me every single day." "That last part sounds like the biggest challenge," Carter joked, though his heart was pounding. "I am difficult," Amelia admitted. "I am demanding. I do not tolerate fools, and I never forget a spilled glass of wine." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Carter said. He looked around the restaurant. He saw the wealthy patrons eating their meals, oblivious to the stories of the staff serving them. But he saw them. He saw the busboy clearing a table. He saw the hostess checking the reservation book. He looked back at Amelia, the woman who had scrubbed floors and now owned skyscrapers. "I'm in," Carter said. Amelia smiled, and this time it wasn't cold. It was warm, genuine, and full of promise. "Good," she said. "Now eat your dinner. We have an 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow. And Carter?" "Yes? Don't be late." The downfall of Tiffany St. James and the redemption of Carter Winslow serve as a powerful reminder that true worth is never found in a bank account or a designer label. Tiffany believed that her status made her untouchable, treating those she deemed below her with cruelty. But she failed to realize that the waitress wiping the table might hold the power to buy the building. Amelia Kovacs proved that dignity, intelligence, and hard work are the ultimate currencies. She didn't just take revenge, she taught a lesson. She stripped away the artifice of wealth to reveal the character underneath. In the end, the accent that was mocked became the voice of authority, and the hands that were called dirty signed the checks that saved an empire. It is a story that proves you should never judge a book by its cover, or a woman by her apron. What a roller coaster. It just goes to show, you never know who you're talking to, so always be kind. What would you have done if you were in Amelia's shoes? Would you have given Carter a second chance, or left him in the dust? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We have plenty more dramatic tales coming your way. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.